Let's just get it. There we go. Oh, still in the process of setting things up a bit, but I think that's more or less done it. Hey, so I think we've more or less done that. That's perfect. That. Welcome to the stream. There's no one else watching. Oh no, we've got one person now. But yeah, today's main topic. Today we're actually going to do a little bit of a test painting today, as well as talk about some politics. I don't know what we're going to talk about, as usual. If you've got any ideas or things you want to hear me talk about, let me know in the chat, whatever, and I'll respond to them. I might not look at the chat, so if I do miss it, please do keep on reminding me. But today's main mission, we've got my first ever attempt and test with this bad boy. This is contrast paint, and this very, very dark purple. And we're going to use it on these guys here. These, as I once threatened, I'm going to start a new Age of Sigmar army. So I got the Start Collecting box set, and these guys are essentially ready to base and ready to paint. We're not going to do what would be traditionally done, which is paint them black. Instead, we're going to paint them this nice, really dark purple color, and we'll see how they turn out. Like I said, this is an experiment, so we'll see what happens there, and that's the painting front. Politics-wise, I'm open today. We are open for all topics. Not all topics, shall we say? There will be, of course, a discussion. Like I say, I really liked a couple of days ago when we were doing I forgot what I called the stream now. the talk, the walk with politics. That's it. Hi from Hamburg, from J&T. Hi, welcome. Like I say, anything you want to talk about, anything you want me to talk about in chat, I'm more than up for it. Like I say, we're multitasking today. We're painting. We're talking about politics. Feel free to choose the subject. I'll try and not lean back too much, because I do realise the light there just makes me completely disappear and fade into the darkness. But we'll try that. I'll tell you what actually we will do, which would be a good idea while we're doing this. Has everyone seen? We've got 10 people on now. Remember to like the video, guys. I want to see 10 likes. We've got 2, so there should be 10. So you all remember or should know of a guy on. Hello there from Sweden. Oh, there's from Robin there painting his French Waterloo army. So you may all remember a guy called Majid Nawaz. He did a recent video. It must have been, was it a week ago now? Maybe a little bit more. There's what's his Majid Nawaz made a video basically about how Remainers should just stop talking about Brexit. I've got a lot of stuff to say about that. So we've got that video. Hopefully I can bring it on my little tablet here. I brought a little tablet with me down so we can do that as well. But first, we're going to do some painting. And someone said Ian Duncan Smith comment is there as well. I saw in the chat. So I think we'll start off. Good evening from the land of smiles. So yeah, we'll talk about Ian Duncan Donut Smith and his ridiculous comments, because ironically this plays into another big solution that we've seen from especially the Brexiteers on the topic. They really, really do not like the withdrawal agreement. Yet, only a couple of weeks ago, hello there from Gloucestershire. What's that? Tempest from Gloucestershire. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the stream. Careful. There we go. This is the first with contrast paint. So this could be interesting. A Mad Hatter fossil from a bygone age. Yeah, Ian Duncan Smith, he is such a weird fellow. He really is, and his recent comments when we want to talk about him and getting rid of the withdrawal agreement. This is a guy who, throughout 2017 and 2018, was constantly on Theresa May's back, shouting about Brexit and the different forms of that he wanted, or the other Brexiteers that they wanted, which was a clean break Brexit, which of course still is in the lexicon of the Brexiteers today. Oh, I'm not sure about this. For those of you who don't know, we're interested in the painting part. We're doing contrast straight onto a bare model. Although what we may do is we may get some of the black paint and we might just do this one completely in contrast, and we might get black paint one and then put the contrast over it, see how it is, and we'll see how that goes. But Ian Duncan Smith is a big part of the Brexiteers, and especially the Brexiteer ultras, who are essentially just Thatcher's children. I think we've more or less started to dub them. And they are the absolute desperados who are desperate. What kind of model? It's a Thunderer from the Cadron Overlords new army that I've started for Age of Sigmar. I don't know. Can you see that? Yeah, this is the contrast paint. As you can see at the moment, it's very, very runny, and it's not spreading as much or staying on as much I'd like to. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Maybe this is a too thin coat's job. But we'll see. But yeah, he has been vastly part of the Brexiteers' plot to try and, well, drive the UK really over a cliff edge to essentially no deal Brexit, which, from the looks of it, when I first started talking about Brexit in all general sense and purposes, I never thought we'd be here less than 4 months. Is it 4 or 5 months? Staring down this barrel of a no deal Brexit being delivered to us, of all people, by Boris Johnson. I never thought we'd get this far. I'd always thought we'd go for a hard Brexit, but there would be at the end of it some sort of deal, because there's no way that these Brexiteers get everything that they want. Oh, by the way, plug for Friday's video. We're going to be going over that from the Berg Brexit blog, which is quite a really interesting video and a blog itself. So do go check them out. Very good. I never thought we'd be there. I always assumed that there would be some sort of deal, and that the Brexiteers at the final hour would say, "Oh, we have to at least agree to some of the EU's demands in some way, shape, or form, because we generally can't afford not to." And of course, back then there was no such thing as the coronavirus either, so there was no pressure on either side, shall we say, especially our side, to do a deal. So we were looking really right down this barrel of this, quite frankly now, what is going to be a no deal. And I think you have to ask the question, is that what the Brexiteers wanted all along? Which is kind of funny, because you look back at 2016 and you will see Brexiteers up and down, left and right, all saying that no deal is not an option. Indeed, the only Brexiteer that has stuck to his guns, and I'll give him this, the only Brexiteer that stuck to his guns, saying and promoting a no deal, was Patrick Minford. Oh, good morning, Jerry from America. So Patrick Minford, give him his credit. He has been the only Brexiteer that has consistently, from the very beginning, wanted a no deal Brexit. So we'll have to give him his dues on that. But when it comes to Ian Duncan Smith, spending what must have been the last 4 years saying how bad Theresa May's deal was, although, again, like any Brexiteer, never actually presenting an alternative to the floor, saying, oh no, what we need to be doing is this, and this is how we're going to do it. Instead, they've been pretty much, here's our idea, this is what you should do, we'll leave the rest up to you, which is, does anyone tell you in any business or any work sense, anything like that, that's probably the worst thing someone can probably give to you. Oh yeah, we need to do we want you to do this, we don't care how you do it, just do it. Even though you know there might be consequences for doing it in certain ways, having an open plan sometimes really isn't the best thing. So just a little bit more. I think this would be a lot better if I had a spray gun, to be honest. But I don't have a spray gun. But that's how it's turned out so far. Just show you. Sort of highlighted. It's quite nice paint. It's the first time I'm using contrast. Oh, someone from Los Angeles. Hi, nice to meet you as well. Welcome to our politics and paint stream. So that has turned it quite nice. I think this is going to be a 2 coats job by the looks of it. It is quite a nice purple. I'll tell you that now. It's the purple that I wanted to go for with the overalls that they wear. Oh, just a bit in the recesses there. But yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll leave that to dry a bit. I think we'll come back to it and give it another coat, because there are some areas where it does look really quite nice. Yeah, let's tell you what, we'll just give them all, go over them 1 coat then. So that's the first one done. We'll come back to you. Interestingly enough, mentioning America, I don't know if you've all also seen the other interesting comments about how Boris Johnson and his team are wanting Donald Trump to lose the election, because somehow in their warped Brexiteer worldview, they think that Biden is going to give them a better deal. So, for those of you who haven't been following some of this drama, especially with the American trade deal, the American trade deal for the Brexiteers is like their golden egg. It is going to be absolutely, they're going to count it as a massive win. It is going to be a massive propaganda win when it comes in. And of course, it will have loads of unintended consequences. It's going to weaken tons of standards throughout the UK. It's going to put the NHS under even more privatization pressure. It is going to be an absolute terrible. It's going to be absolutely terrible. Oh, I didn't see that then. Well, Biden is likely to give them something political reasons, though it wouldn't be great. Trump would skin them alive. It's not a question of who gives them the better deal. It's just that the deal will be bad from America regardless. There is really no upside. Like I say, you look at the analysis of what was presented, it's going to give us something like, I want to say 0.2%. I might be wrong on that. Or I might be thinking the Australia deal. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But it's going to be worth nothing and not even replace half of what we lost trade-wise from being in the EU and single market. But someone said there, for political reasons, I'm interested what you think Biden gets out of that, because as far as I can see and I've read, there's no way that Biden would want to give them any deal. Like I say, he was part of the Obama administration, and the Obama administration was pretty clear on the Brexit front. They were like, if you do Brexit, don't expect us to be clamoring to give you a deal. You're not going to be at the front of the queue. And he echoed those comments of Obama. Yeah, that's what I was exactly about to say, Jerry. Biden has huge support from the Democrat Party, especially in the areas around Chicago, and sort of think of that area around the US. Has a massive, very, very much pro-Irish standpoint. And a lot of those people that are big donors to that are big supporters of the Democrat Party himself. In fact, isn't Biden Irish? I want to say he's Irish, but I don't think he is. So yeah, he will not be any way, shape or mood to give the UK a good deal, especially if it's seen as giving Ireland the shaft. So he will want to make sure about that. And oh yeah, he will. Biden, the first almost year of Biden's presidency, again, if he gets in, fingers crossed he gets in. Christ, could you imagine 4 more years of Trump? Good God. He will have to spend his pretty much first year almost on an apology tour out to the world going, yeah, I'm sorry about Trump, but yeah, let's normal business has been resumed. Yeah, well, it's absolutely, yeah. But again, this is part of the insane fantasy of the Brexiteers that were somehow, because again, Trump was their man. But I think they're worried that, especially him, in fact, the Republicans that they're going to push too hard, too much. And that if anything gets out from the trade talks, which are, of course, going to be carried out in secret, probably already being carried out now as we speak, potentially, or initial trade talks. Remember, this is your trade secretary. What's his name now? I want to say William Barr, but it's not. Your trade secretary under Trump came out and said that it is America's God-given right to steal jobs from the UK. And you've got to look at that and go, yeah, that's Trump. That's Trump's guy saying that. Do you think, honestly, we're going to get any sort of good deal? And like I say, Biden's not going to give us a good deal either. Just anything that the Brexiteers have said much about this this deal ain't going to work. It's going to be insane. So just an update on the painting. I don't know if it's maybe it's because we're using the brush and it's spreading, I think, a little bit more better. That one has come out a lot more purple than the last one did. So we'll see how it goes. These might be a couple of maybe touch-ups from it, but we'll see how it goes. It's going all right. Yeah, I do suspect that Biden is Irish in some way, shape, or form. Either he has an Irish ancestry or one of his parents was Irish. It's something like that. So he's going to have deep links to Ireland on that front. But of course, the other bizarre recent thing, of course, you may or may not know, depending on how you keep up with the news, but the EU's got a new rotating presidency, and of course, that new president is Angela Merkel. And if you go right back to the start of all this Brexit mess, you remember all the Brexiteers saying that we'll get a really easy deal because the German car manufacturers are going to swan in and sort out Angela Merkel and say, you've got to give the Brits a good deal. Now, of course, that bubble was very, very quickly popped by the German car industry, who basically said, no, we won't sacrifice, I can't remember what the exact wording they used, but we won't sacrifice the integrity of the single market to try and get a good deal to sell cars to the UK. It's just not worth it for them in the long run. So you fast forward now. Angela Merkel is on the rolling presidency of the EU. She's now sort of in charge. And bizarrely, bizarrely of all places, the Express, a newspaper that has roundly insulted Angela Merkel for years, it's been unbelievable. But yeah, he's roundly just screwed them over. Screwed Angela Merkel over, tried to for years in like stories, calling her the German woman, calling her insults, the sauerkraut woman, all these just general insults to her. Now, I think it was a couple of days ago, ran a news story saying how Angela Merkel is going to be the saviour of Brexit, because Angela Merkel is going to come in to the EU and say, yeah, time to stop all this nonsense, Michel Barnier. We're going to fire you. Oh, that's one. That's a recent one. The Brexiteers saying that Angela Merkel's going to fire Michel Barnier. That would be fun to see, but that's not going to happen. Michel Barnier would have to be replaced by the EU Parliament, and the EU Parliament would have to vote someone new in. So that's not going to happen. That's a new Brexiteer fantasy of Angela Merkel firing Michel Barnier, and as they put it, it's the Frenchmen coming in and blocking Brexit, and then the Germans coming in to sort them out. Now, that's not going to happen in a month of Sundays, because first of all, Michel Barnier carries with him the pretty much writ and sanction of 27 other EU countries to carry out these negotiations. He's got his mandate from them, and he knows essentially what he's doing. He ain't going to be replaced anytime soon. We have this bizarre situation now where our right-wing press and right-wing pundits are trying to picture Angela Merkel as some sort of Brexit hero. And you're like, wait, think of all the names they've been calling her for years, not only before Brexit, but after Brexit as well. It just doesn't make any lick of sense as to why they'd be going to that extent. It's honestly insane. But there you go. That's one of the newest things from our lovely tabloid front on all this. Like I say, if there's something you want me to talk about, just mention it in the comments. Like I said, this is pretty much another chill and impromptu stream where I haven't really planned anything on top of it. But I think actually we'll go over the Maajid Nawaz video. So if you hold on a second, I'll bring that up. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be able to hear it, and we'll have a good gripe about Maajid Nawaz and his recent comments about Brexiteers and, Remainers need to, quote, shut up and move on. I missed that there. I'll try not to get paint everywhere. This is something I didn't think about when I was doing this. Comments, where are you? There you are. What is the relationship between north of England and south? What is the history and beef there? Oh, well, this is really if you went to any country these days, you'd see a similar situation. At one point, there was the north was the industrial heartland of the UK, and still potentially could be. It's got the knowledge, it's got the skill base, it's got the workforce essentially to do it. But of course, times have changed in the UK. We've become more what we call a service economy. So we provide services rather than manufacturing. There still is somewhat of a manufacturing base in the UK. However, it's not there. Not what it once used to be. Shall we say, for a myriad of reasons. One is because the primary one is the complete deindustrialization of the North under Margaret Thatcher. And this is really where the beef begins in the 80s with Margaret Thatcher and a little event, you might have heard of it, called the miners' strike, or the second miners' strike, 1984. I don't know if you can see that. A bit more of an update. Still a bit, I think that's definitely going to need a second coat on some of these. But I'm wondering if I still should have just gone over these black and painted them like that first. But it is very, very dark though. So you have the miners' strike, which results in the complete deindustrialization of the North. And this isn't a gradual thing. It takes place almost over almost over a period of like 2 years. It happened really, really fast. And obviously this affected huge swathes of people in the North. People lost their jobs and lost really good paying jobs as well, especially in the mining industry. I mean, it's the same in the US, where you go to see places like, North Virginia and Virginia, you go to those coal mines, and like the coal mines are providing, really good, high-paying, low-skill jobs. So, of course, Thatcher promises to reinvest in the North. Of course, this is history magnificently repeating itself, as Boris Johnson recently has done as well. Not one of her promises of investing in the North turned out to be true, and of course, massive scale unemployment, which still to this day, the miners' strike and the knock-on effects from the closing of the pits still affects the North today. It's still there everywhere you have it. Now, what gets into the North-South divide? Well, one of the big things that the miners were banking on back then was that the railway workers and that the trains were going to join them. So this wouldn't just be a miners' strike resulting in lack of coal for the UK, but also a massive issue for transport because the trains wouldn't be running or anything like that. So the miners were really counting on at the time the RTM, the rail. I think that's what they are, to join them in their strike to help them take down Thatcher. That was another thing as well. Arthur Scargill getting very, very over enthusiastic about what he wanted. If you ask anyone, probably, although they won't admit it, Arthur Scargill wanted a revolution, not to save people's jobs. But that's a topic for another conversation because, my God, there are a myriad of different opinions you can take on Arthur Scargill. And yet, things were really bad. And of course, you look down further south, and yet the South was perfectly fine. And that's generally it. But it's the same in other countries as well, with areas that are doing well versus areas that used to do well in like years ago, but because of changing economies and other factors, they're not as prosperous areas as they used to be. So there's a lot of dissatisfaction and just general animosity between the two sides, really. I mean, it all has to do with economics. And like I say, I'm not a head guy when it comes to economics. I'm not an economist. It's not my wheelhouse. Marketing is my wheelhouse. But that's the key, almost the key main point. Nothing was done. Nothing in these areas was invested into. And as a result, we've just been left to linger for years, to a point even now where you've had collapsible disasters. So the 2008 crash, if you live in the North, at the moment, your annual pay packet is probably about £400 less than it would have been before the 2008 crisis. And of course, you go down south, further south down you go, the less that gets to, until you get to London, where you're pretty much in a plus. So there's that economic situation going on as well. And it generally is just one of these things of, if anyone gave a damn generally about the North, and Labour do give a damn, despite what a lot of people say they don't. And again, I wish we had Corbyn in charge now, because I tell you what, going into a recession, Going into recession with Corbyn, I'd be a lot more optimistic. Going into recession with Boris in charge, I am very, very worried. Yeah. But there you have it. So I think that's, yeah, that does it. I've got to get a spray gun for these. It'd be so much easier. It'd just be psh, psh, done, psh, psh, done. But anyway, that's the first lot coated. Oh, someone from Siberia joining us. Welcome to our little paint and chat screen, paint and politics stream. It's look free and easy here. Yeah, wash my brush off. Right, Magic Noirs. Let's find them. Let's see, I've got it here somewhere. Oh, Serbia, not Siberia. Sorry. Sorry, I misread that. Yeah. hello from Serbia. Where are we? There we are. I've saved his video somewhere. Where is it? Where are you? Where are you? Do. Oh yeah, the other thing is, did people see? I'm going to do a video of it. But did people see Annunziata Rees-Mogg's comments that pretty much are adds up to let them eat potatoes? That's because that's how we'll solve the poor crisis. Oh, there's someone's comment there. Hold on, let me find this video. I'll respond to your comment, and then we'll get in to that video. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, so the video was titled "Remainers, Put Your Egos Aside and Work Towards a Post-Brexit Britain, Magic Noirs, LBC."
If that's all true, if that's all the case,
can you hear that?
One example I gave of me reaching across the divide to Nigel Farage, and thank you, Nigel, for him responding and saying, actually, I am going to help you, and then actually delivering on his promise. That's what
I'm just interested to know, can people hear the video?
Parliamentary candidate who campaigned for Remain very publicly on these airwaves can do when reaching across to somebody they disagree with. Because the human spirit is more important and more binding and more lasting than political dispute. And so he did help me. Now, that's an example.
Excellent. Right. So we'll go over that video in a bit. Someone just commented there about. So AIM 137 said, I don't see a no deal happening. Its effects are too immediate and obvious. I imagine Boris will come back with some tripe and sell it as a victory. Any insights? I have been pretty much of the opinion that there would be some sort of deal in some way, shape, or form, even if it's like the most bare bones, Billy Basic deal possible. It would be spun as some sort of great victory for Brexit. Look how amazing we are. Aren't we fantastic? But this is where you've got to look at the Brexiteers. Because a couple of weeks ago, and really almost from the start of this whole thing, going back to like 2017, the Brexiteers have been very, very clear what they want. They want what they call a clean break Brexit. And a clean break to Brexit is will just walk away completely. Just walk away completely, and somehow, everything will be fine. Of course, that's not the case. And obviously, as you said, immediate and obvious effects. Brexiteers don't care about the immediate and obvious effects that their policies and their ideas are creating. That's worrying, and that should be worrying whether you are a Brexit supporter or you are a Remainer. In fact, thank you for this comment, because this allows us to segue most fantastically into this video. You've got something I've only just realized recently, a video that we covered on Friday. Again, watch out for Friday's video. There has been a recent ruling by the European Court of Justice that has essentially and effectively put a digital wall between Europe and the USA when it comes to transferring data. And this is pretty serious, because effectively it means that European countries can't hold data in the US, and that US companies, if they are going to hold Europeans' data, they have to abide by GDPR rules and rules that are set by Europe to protect their data. Otherwise, they face a fine. And I think it works out to 20 million euros, or it's about 4% of their annual turnover, whichever's highest. Now, the assumption that a lot of people had been going under was that the data rules and the data transfer rules between the UK and Europe wouldn't change, and that there somehow would be, again, a deal at the 11th hour. But not even in these negotiations is data or data transfer being talked about. And a lot of us, especially me, we talk about, we like to emphasize the giant lorry parks and the lorry car pileups that are going to be a result of Brexit. That's a practical, physical effect that you can see. Now, data, when you talk about data and big data as well, I mean, if you've ever been or know a company that handles big data, you know how much space and room their servers take up, and how much money is put into operating these machines and their servers. It's huge amounts of data and information. So all of a sudden, this new ruling, I think it's the Stymons 2 or Stevens 2, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but I think it's some sort of company, has essentially put up that wall. Now that means, in the event of either a no deal or a bare bones deal being reached, effectively a European country can't hold data in the UK. That represents a massive problem, because remember, we are a service economy. Part of that service economy requires us to hold people's data for insurance purposes, for cars, homes, you name it, banking information. We need to hold that. What about receipts for things like that? There's tons and tons of information that you pass over to a company to hold on to for safekeeping continuously. And us as a service-based industry, that's something that we take huge amounts of money from throughout years and years and years. So now we've got a problem of come January 1st, not only will there be a physical border. Yeah, fantastic for people in computer-based services as well. Yeah, it'll be. Trust me, there's going to be a scrabble for server space in the UK soon, and they're not going to be able to accommodate it all. Which means that your data might have to be shared in the US, and the US has wonderful privacy laws to protect your data. Yeah, exactly. I didn't know about this until this morning when I was going over this blog. There is so much people talk about the whole lorry parks and the lorry things. And yeah, that is going to affect the UK. But this is going to be awful because come January 1st of 2021, not only will there be a physical border between us and the EU, there will also be a digital border between us and the EU, meaning that services that are digital or information or passing information over to and from suddenly becomes a lot harder. And that makes that has huge damaging problems to the UK as a service-based economy, because as I said at the beginning of this, we hold huge amounts of data and information. Just think about if you were going after a service, what information you have to give over to someone, like an insurance company. You have to give your name, your address, your age, marriage, financial details. That's just stuff I'm thinking off the top of my head. There's probably more depending on what type of insurance you're going for. So the question is, where does all this data get stored? You may remember a couple of years ago about GDPR and all the companies in the UK freaking out about GDPR. That's what part of these new rules are. And that's going to cause huge problems. And people like Majid Nawaz here, when we criticize the Brexiteers for saying, oh, there's going to be no problems, it's going to be easy, there's going to be no problems at all whatsoever. Majid Nawaz, as a response here on this video that we're going to go through, is essentially that I have to put my ego aside as a Remainer to work for the betterment of Brexit Britain. Now, what I've just told you about that data war being set up because of this new court ruling by the ECG means effectively hundreds of thousands of businesses that store customer information that are from Europe are going to have to relocate their servers to the EU or just not do business with EU customers. At what point do I have to put my ego aside to bring this up as a problem of Brexit? But we'll find out. So anyway, let's get into this video, shall we?
If that's all true, if that's all the case, then look to that one example I gave of me reaching across the divide to Nigel Farage, and thank you, Nigel, for him responding and saying, actually, I am going to help you, and then actually delivering on his promise. That's what a Remainer, a former Liberal Democrat parliamentary candidate who campaigned for Remain very publicly on these airwaves, can do when reaching across to somebody they disagree with. Because the human spirit is more important and more binding and more lasting than political dispute.
This is more than just reaching across the aisle, because this has you've seen this a lot recently of, oh, why can't the left and right work together? The thing is, there are different outcomes when you do this. There was, a chance to talk about this and these problems. But whenever these problems were brought up, people like Nigel Farage, who Majid here says he worked quite openly with, might have aligned on that, but doesn't necessarily mean you're going to align all the time. Not only that, the outcomes we wanted were different. Lots of Remainers went, oh, well, we've lost, but it doesn't really matter because we'll end up staying in the customs union single market. Remember Daniel the Brain Hannan of Brexit saying infamously on an interview that only a fool talks about leaving the single market. And of course, you have Daniel Hannan, brain of Brexit, gonna be there.
And so he did help me. Now that's an example of how we can heal divides in this Brexit debate. We've got more in common with each other as British citizens and human beings primarily than we do different. And sometimes it means holding your nose, holding your grudge, putting the past behind you, burying your ego, and deciding that what you're working towards is more important than that grudge, which is what clearly Nigel Farage did when he helped me on this campaign to stop Muslims being oppressed. Who would have...
Great that Nigel Farage worked with you to stop Muslims being oppressed, but Nigel Farage would never, ever, ever work with a Remainer who said, come on, you guys said that we could remain in the single market and customs union. Let's work towards that. That ain't going to happen. Can you imagine for a second Nigel Farage trying to work with Remainers in Parliament to get a deal through that basically meant we were like Norway, we stayed in the single market and customs union? Brexiteers would never, ever in a single moment, for a second, consider doing that. And yet Majid Nawaz here seems to somehow think that's possible. Now, on certain things and certain outcomes, when you're reaching across the aisles, you reach out to people who want similar outcomes. So this is where you would get a Labour MP working with a Conservative MP because they want similar outcomes. They probably want more money for their towns and regions, so their interests align. Not so when it comes to Brexit.
Thought, right? So there's an example for everyone. Now, can we please, all of us on the Brexit debate, start doing that? Because we're all in a bit of a pickle. I don't believe we needed to be in this pickle, but we did it. Our hands delivered us to this position. Our very own hands put us in this position. I'm not going to rehash that debate. I love my fellow Brexiteers in this country, right? I'm not going to turn against them just because they disagreed with me on something. I'm going to say, like the example I just gave of Nigel and me working on that petition together.
We're not turning on people. I want to make that very, very clear. When I talk about Brexiteers and Brexit supporters, I classify these people as two different sets of people. A Brexit supporter is someone in the north who voted for Brexit and didn't really either understand what they were voting for or were lied to. And I tell you now, in the couple of years coming in the United Kingdom, if there still is one, that is, there is going to be a lot of anger. A lot of real palpable anger, because for so many years it has been Tory austerity that has done so much damage to these communities that voted for Brexit. You have people like Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, who swanned in and said, don't worry, vote to leave the EU and your lives will be better. And the problem is that they are clinging onto that hope that their lives are somehow going to be better. And this works out like anyone, if you look at like the psychology of people who get conned, they always act aggressively and emotionally to people who are telling them, you've been conned, here's how you've been conned. It takes a while for them to realize that actually that's what went on, you know. I've been conned. And that has started to happen. A lot of people have started to come around on that fact. Because I know a guy who voted for leave because he wanted to leave the EU politically, but wanted to stay in the customs union single market. If he himself said, if he had a time machine, he could time travel and tell himself what has happened, he would never have voted for Brexit. He would never have voted to leave. He voted to remain. And that's another problem that we encounter, that because Brexiteers and the Leave campaign ran such a multitude facet of a campaign that basically went, we can do everything we want, you know, like stay in the single market and customs union, as well as keep us going. Oh, thank you very much, Jerry. But that's it, and people were conned, you know. And I think this must be the same thing. I think we have, from what we've seen, we've got a couple of Americans watching. This must be exactly what people in the Rust Belt must be feeling like. Here comes Donald Trump swimming along saying, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to bring industry and jobs back to your state after years of being ignored. Now, it looks like, fingers crossed, these places that voted for Trump and got him in might be actually starting to turn around. Now, if they are, Donald Trump's dead in the water, because you have rabid Trump voters, and then you have people who voted for Trump because they genuinely thought and believed he could deliver to them the kind of change that they want to see. And of course, that hasn't turned out to be the case. And as a result, I think you are going to see a lot of anger. A lot of anger. And it makes me worry, because that anger can very, very easily be turned by people who have alternative agendas. It was said right at the start of Trump's initial campaign that Trump was changing the game for the Republican Party. That he was showing them that populism is a way to get noticed, is a way to get run, and a platform to run on. Now, of course, he ended up winning. And a lot of people said at that time, it's not Trump you should be worried about, it's who comes after Trump that you should be worried about. And that's what's worrying, especially for here, because you're going to have massive communities that were promised change and that their lives will be made better, but that's not what got delivered to them. And as a result, there's going to be massive change, a massive sea change in anger, and an even worsening of the lack of interactivity in politics in this country, because it's already at a very all-time low in this country, something that we really have to worry about. And I often say, it needs to be really taught more in schools as an education thing. Politics 101, I think, should be taught, in secondary schools, as to make people aware and understand just how important it is to vote. Yeah, populism and racism, they are both sides of the right-wing same coin. I mean, I've told this story before, I'm sure I have, about not long after the whole Rotherham incident, there was a girl in Barnsley who was late home one night, and she lied, saying that she'd been raped by a Polish guy. And this caused massive wave of anger towards the Polish community in this town. You had people attacked, throwing rocks on the street for speaking Polish. Polish shops were attacked. One was an attempted arson, which, if a fire had broken out, could have been absolutely devastating to an entire area, because it was like the corner shop connected to a row of houses. So you had the corner shop here, the entire row of houses down there, an entire row of houses along there. And yet there was an arson attack on that corner shop. That entire road could have gone up. And that was motivated because this girl came forward and said, and attacked these people. Yeah, that's the thing about racism. It's not just someone of a different skin color. It can also amount to their ethnicity as well. And, people on here in the UK will attack people just because, they're from Poland. There was huge, even before the Brexit vote, there was huge article after article written about how many Poles are coming over to the UK and, taking people's jobs. So, of course, there's going to be massive implications towards aggressiveness. And, this has a knock-on effect. If people start degrading people for humanity that they have, be they their color of the skin, just the country that they happen to be born in, then this is going to turn into violence, small scale and large scale. And that's the problem. So anyway, my guys are getting more purple, by the way. Don't know if you can see them. But yeah, it's working. So it looks like two coats are going to do the business, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and dry to see how they turn out. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. It's a good experiment so far. So anyway, let's continue with Imagine Nawaz, see what he has to say.
How can we as a country replicate that effort across the board on all the big issues of our day? Because at the end of the day, Brexit's now happened.
Oh, thank you very much.
The environment is still important. So what we need to start doing is thinking of a post-Brexit green policy and what that looks like. Because, of course, we all know who care for the environment that you need international cooperation on that stuff, right? We all know. So that's a big...
Except, why on earth is a Brexiteer going to suddenly agree to work with the EU? No Brexiteer in their right mind post-Brexit is going to want to work with the EU. Remember, in all these Brexiteers' minds, the EU is going to collapse in 5 years' time. It should have collapsed 5 years ago, but, less than that, and, 10 years before that, and 15 years before that, and 20 years before that. Brexit really is about the death of international cooperation, because the EU was the most successful one. And you are right, there was no someone's commented there. Let me just read it, go through that comment. Oh. Yeah, you're right, there was no attempt at compromise from leavers. You know, we have been completely written off and ignored, and always, and because it's, the will of the people, and we're being captured by a very hard right wing of the Tory party who has had wet dreams for years about Margaret Thatcher and finishing off her Thatcherite revolution. Because all of this Brexit nonsense goes back to when Margaret Thatcher decided to join the European Common Market. They could not get over themselves. They were like, hang on, Margaret, you've been saying that we need less regulation that we need to get rid of because that's what we were building up, that's what we were doing. And then all of a sudden, you've joined the ECC, which means that there's going to be more regulation we can't control. And all these people are what we've dubbed on this channel before Thatcher's children. And have caused, and they were the eventual ones to bring down Margaret Thatcher. They were the ones that took down John Major. They were the ones that eventually took down David Cameron. They're the ones that took down Theresa May. And if Boris capitulates in any way, shape or form, they will be the ones to take down Boris Johnson. And these are people with big names, big money behind them. Again, like Chris Grayling. The reason why Chris Grayling has even throughout his numerous failures throughout the years has stayed is because he brings big money to the Conservative Party. Other than that, he ain't going anywhere unless, the money stops. But that doesn't look like that's going to stop anytime soon. Yeah, that was the idea. She was playing a long game to try and influence the EU, and to some extent, she did. This is what's insane. The single market is easily one of the greatest achievements the Tory party ever did, and yet the Tory party will also be known as the party that left it. Anyway, continue with the video.
Topic, environment, as is, for example, getting Brexit done because we lost the debate, right? So how do we do that? Well, do you really think, fellow beloved Remainers, that you're going to get the kind of good Brexit, if, the worst, the least case scenario out of a bad job? Do you really think you're going to do that if you don't work with Brexit?
No Brexiteer is going to work with the UK. No Brexiteer would ever work with a Remainer because they do not want anything to do with the EU. Because they see it as the Antichrist, the ultimate evil. It just goes beyond, silliness at that point. But there you go. That's where you actually have it. You're at this point where you are just, it doesn't matter what solutions Remainers would bring to the table. It ain't gonna happen because they don't want it, because they see the UK, and this all goes back to a pamphlet a Brexiteer pamphlet back in 2015, it must be, called Stay or Leave. And it fulfilled a lot of bizarre, really bizarre fantasies for the Brexiteers. It got summarised, but I'll tell you what, we'll go over that after this, because I think that's important to go over.
Just to try and achieve it. If you leave that debate to people that won the debate and you say, I'm throwing my hands up, throwing the towel in, I can't do this anymore because they're all a bunch of, expletives, then they will shape the future of this country without your input. And that...
They don't want our input. That's the simple thing. So it doesn't matter, because we've been here on this channel telling people the problems and potential problems of Brexit, what it's going to cause. Yet let's go right back to the very beginning. So Brexit vote happens. What immediately happens? Oh, we need to trigger Article 50 as soon as possible. Why do we need to trigger Article 50 as soon as possible? Shouldn't we be actually trying to figure out what Brexit is? No. We know what Brexit is. Weren't you listening to us at the referendum? Trigger Article 50. So Article 50 gets triggered, which is essentially 2 years of negotiation. At that point, the ERG steps in, who are the hard right of the party, who are also the ones responsible for pushing Theresa May to trigger Article 50 as fast as she did, to start saying, well, we don't like the withdrawal agreement. We don't like anything that's going on. We should just leave. These are the same people, with Ian Duncan Smith coming out recently, who for years said he didn't like the withdrawal agreement and stood up in Parliament saying how much he didn't like it, only to vote for it, like many of these Brexiteers did after Boris Johnson won in the last election, to now turn around and say, oh, we don't like the withdrawal agreement, we should get rid of it. How can you work with someone like that? Just imagine if you had to work with someone who was like that. You'd get no work done in any way, shape or form. It'd be complete madness. But here we are, 4 years on, and we know what Majid Nawaz just said there was a lie, because all the Remainer MPs, Conservative Remainer MPs in Parliament, even the more moderate ones who didn't want a no-deal Brexit, remember, in the series of indicative votes, the no-deal option was only given 62 votes for. The closest one came to winning by 3 points, by 3 votes, lost by 3 votes, shall I say, for majority, was Ken Clarke's idea of staying in the customs union. That's as close as any consensus came on, but all those people just swept away. You now have a Conservative Party that is full of people who are loyalist. You must want Brexit at all costs, and you must do whatever Boris Johnson says, regardless. That is the situation we are now in. There's no working with the current government. There's no working with Brexiteers in Parliament. There's no working with Brexit supporters, because many of them still are drinking the Kool-Aid, because they don't want to work. Because the second, if I as a Remainer turn around and said Brexit has all these problems, here's a way to solve it, they're not interested. So this whole thing Majid Nawaz has about, oh, we need to put your ego aside. I've had Brexiteers in my comment section for years. Any video I've done, just look at the comments. No one's interested in staying in any way, shape or form part of the EU, even though we have the data to show just how bad it's going to be for this country, especially now with the coronavirus and a world recession on the way. And I keep on saying it a lot of end of my videos recently, we're going to have another Halloween crisis or October crisis, whichever way you want to dub it.
Is not the kind of country I'd like. I'd like my input to have a say in the future and direction of this country. So I think it's really, really important that we bury the hatchet, bury our egos, and start trying to work out which type of Brexiter we can work with to try and forge a vision for this country going forward. And what should that vision?
My challenge to Majid Nawaz, even though I'm not big enough to do this, name me a Brexiteer that Remainers could work with to sort out lots of the problems that Brexit is going to cause. Guarantee you, Majid Nawaz would never be able to do that. You know that challenge he was talking about at the beginning of this video about Nigel Farage and working with Nigel Farage? How about Majid Nawaz goes and tries and works with Nigel Farage about trying to sort out some of these differences? Because as I've said before, you can work with people from the other side, but it's all about outcomes. Sometimes a Conservative and someone from the Labour Party will have the same outcome. That is when they can work together. When they've got different outcomes, maybe a similar problem, but they want different outcomes, that's where they can't work together. So Majid Nawaz would never, ever walk up to Nigel Farage and say, let's try and solve this Brexit problem. Let's try and sort out some of these problems. Not going to work.
I mentioned it perhaps the week we lost the referendum and carried on mentioning it for a while until I thought perhaps there was a chance to try and rectify course, and then I stopped mentioning it, and then I started mentioning it again when I realised there was no chance to rectify course. What's the it? We need to develop a post-Brexit liberal vision for Britain. Liberals have been engulfed in the Remain conversation and therefore took their eye off the ball as to what Britain should look like after Brexit. Do not leave that conversation to people.
A conversation happened. It's called Jeremy Corbyn.
That you may not agree with politically. Have your own share in that debate. Have your own stake in it. Be a part of that debate. What should Britain look like after Brexit? The deadline is going to pass now, at the end of this month, in 6 days. We're not going to meet that deadline. It's now December the 31st. But the good news is the following. Angela Merkel and Germany are, until December the 31st, holding the rotating EU presidency. Why is that good news? Well, apart from the fact that they are overly reliant on exporting cars to the PRC, the People's Republic of China.
What have we just said at the start of this stream? There is a Brexiteer fantasy that somehow Angela Merkel is going to come and save them. This is never going to happen. Angela Merkel is nothing to do with the negotiations. They've already given their mandate. Not only that, but all 27 EU countries all have vetoes on this deal. You know, if Italy decides to veto the Brexit deal because they're not happy with for some whatever, pick your random reason, all goes to pot. Renegotiations have to start happening. And yeah, it is just another Angela Merkel fantasy. And this is it. Majid Nawaz, a Remainer, should know that this is a fantasy, that this is never going to happen. But anyway, we'll continue.
China, park that for a second. The good news is Angela Merkel is known generally to be quite a reasonable, rational human being that you can talk to and get things done with. She's known as somebody that gets things done. Now, she's there until the 31st of December. Can we get somebody on our side who's also known to be reasonable, rational, and can get things done to head up those negotiations? Probably already are. I mean, I don't know. But what I'm saying is that's the way forward. And if we can develop a post-Brexit liberal vision for Britain, I mean small L liberal here, you know, a vision that...
Any post-vision of Brexit Britain has to work with the EU. You can't work with Angela Merkel. He's insinuating here that somehow we just go to Angela Merkel and do a deal with Angela Merkel. That's not the way the EU works. From someone who's meant to be a Remainer? Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah. Oh, imagine Noaz. Jesus Christ. This guy is such a he's such a contrarian. He's a liberal when he wants to be. He's a conservative when he's talking to a he's a conservative when he's talking to a liberal. He's a liberal when he's talking to a conservative. He's absolutely infuriating. This is why I don't listen to him on a regular basis. Because he just honestly I just feel like I just want to throw something at the wall, because after a while he just infuriates me with this type of stuff.
Respects human rights, human dignity, respects a mixed economy, doesn't go all the way ultra capitalist with inequality rising, and tries to turn the United Kingdom into some form of pit stop for global trade, while you're going from the United States of America, the People's Republic of China, or the EU, and on your way to refuel, you stop here, and this is the junkyard where you pick up all your bits and pieces and your snacks for the rest of your journey. That's not the vision you want this country to be. So we don't want ultra capitalism. We also don't want ultra command economy. A mixed economy, every serious economist under the planet knows this, is the way forward, right? And so let's develop that vision. Who could our allies be? Well, here's another issue. In the new security conscious environment, clearly referencing again the People's Republic of China's.
You could not do that because you'd have to work with the EU. And Brexiteers are not going to work with the EU, especially after Brexit. That's going to be one of the fun things that we see after Brexit, because Boris Johnson at some point is going to have to go on a European tour. This European tour is going to try and be, hey, do a deal with us. And these leaders is going to turn around and say, Boris, we'd love to do a deal with you, but we are members of the European Union. You have to talk to all of us at once, or none of us at all. I mean, one of the things that was said about this recent budget declaration that the EU managed to get through was the fact that the UK wasn't there. There was no one to veto it. So that's going to be one of the fun things to see. The EU is going to actually be able to move forward so much more because we're not there. And that in the ways is a good thing. That's bizarrely one of the good points about us leaving the EU.
Efforts to undermine our national security. In the new security conscious environment, one of the things I'd recommend, and they happen to share our liberal, human rights-based, humanitarian, democratic values, is that we need to start forging closer and closer alliances with what are known as the Five Eyes nations: New Zealand, Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. Those five...
Empire 2.0! Empire 2.0! We've talked about this before, that one of the things that Brexiteers want is they want to build this Anglosphere, this magnificent Anglosphere of the United Kingdom. The mother country is going to be finally set free from the terrors of the evil European Union, and is going to be finally be able to set sail and be free among her children. And all her children are already going to just come back to her, come back to the bosom of the mother country and be free once again. America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, come to me, my children, the UK will cry. And they will cry out, no, we're not interested. And the funny thing is I'm so glad there are people agreeing with us on this point of Empire 2.0, because I remember my original video on Empire 2.0 and the comments underneath that of people saying, oh, that's never going to happen. No one's talking about trying to restart the empire or this whole Empire 2.0 malarkey. Yet over the years, we have seen that continued rhetoric again and again and again. And here we have Maajid Nawaz, a Liberal Democrat MP, or was he a Liberal Democrat MP? I can't remember now. And Remainer advocating for Empire 2.0, unironically. I'm not saying I called it, but I did call it.
English-speaking nations, there is already, and the reason they're called Five Eyes is there is already a security and intelligence cooperation going on between those five, but let's make it now political and economic. Let's try and work towards building a new club which can then accept other members beyond the five, right? But let's start with something. So if you...
Yeah, this is another thing that Brexiteers are probably going to see this, is the idea that we can build a new anti-EU, an anti-EU club. We can build all this together. This is going to be, you know, flashy, fantastic. Why on earth would anyone want to join or do anything like that with us when we've just done Brexit and all the stuff regarding that? If you're going to do a trade deal with someone, you have to accept that you are going to have to give up sovereignty in some way, shape, or form. The biggest success about the EU has been that numerous countries have gone and taken up and given up sovereignty. No one ever thought or expected they would be, but it's been so successful. You have other blocks looking at potential forming. But there you go. Maajid Nawaz here. I think we will have to go over that summary of the pre-Brexit document of why we should leave, because that would be absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to leave you for a moment because I really need to go. Need to go visit the John, as they say. I'll be back in a moment. Oh, and I'm back, my lovelies. Got myself a drink as well while I was away. Right. Where were we? Yes. Painting update. We've gone through both of them. They are looking very, very nice painting wise. Come out better than I expected. But that's very dark. But that's actually quite nice. Is it? It's not. They're not yet dry, but we'll wait a little bit more, because hopefully when those are dry, we can then start adding some very nice silver for the guns and some of the armor plating, and I've got some very nice bronze colors as well, which you can add to it as well, which will look very nice. And then the best part about it, doing this color means that the undersuits are already done. Hang on, there's a bit too much there on that one. There we go. We don't want it blobbing, anything like that. There we go. There we go, much better. Right, politics front. So, where were we? Imagine Noirs, unironically arguing for Empire 2.0 and for the UK to somehow be the start and the form of a new anti-EU. But we already know that most of these trade deals, especially with Australia, New Zealand, are going to be completely minuscule. It's going to add nothing. And as someone pointed out there, there's just this thing about the English Empire that said, you know, we had to be the ones on top. We had to be the ones that were in charge. We were the ones that ruled. That ain't going to happen in any way, shape, or form. It's unbelievable. What's that? Someone with a reality check. Yeah, every European great power had a harsh reality check within the last 100 years. Exactly. The British Empire did just, you're right, it did just fizzle out. And has been left, unfortunately, by a very, very underserved education system about the British Empire and about what that actually means for people in this country. You don't actually start to learn about the British Empire until you're at least in university. Up until then, and you can see people on the streets and you ask people about the British Empire and they will react favorably. You go to the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, all these other countries don't have any way, shape, or form that favorable view towards their former empire. You know? And yet, here you have Magic Noirs arguing for a new version of this empire, the Empire 2.0. But anyway, he's almost finished, so we'll finish it off. And I don't know what we'll do next, but we'll find something else to do.
Believe as I do that in a globalized world as we live in, we cannot survive as a tiny island, but need allies. Then there is your route. There is your direction. Look to the Five Eyes. They share our values. They share our concerns about the world.
So Europe doesn't share our concerns about the world? We were already working with allies. We had 27 of them. They were called the European Union. And that took years to build and to create and to formalize. And yet here we are, this guy advocating to build the very thing we've just left. And apparently, as a Remainer, I need to put my ego aside, because apparently that's what's stopping me from embracing a post-Brexit Britain, making this country better. That's just completely insane. absolutely insane. I can't believe I'm hearing it, but there you go.
Don't like genocide, right? There's a starter, so we can work with them. So let's start working with those Five Eyes nations, but we need to deepen our political and economic cooperation with them while maintaining our standards. Let's not let America, this doesn't mean let America trample all over us. No, that's where you use the other three in the five to try and develop a more neutral position in it.
That's not going to happen because America would run roughshod over it. Not only that, I like his thing of, oh, they don't like genocide. There's been an ongoing genocide almost for years going on in the Middle East. That group of people is called the Palestinians. They've been having an incredibly rough ride for years, and not one country has sought to actually go in and even help them. In fact, people who have taken that view in politics have been actively taken out politically, not, killed, although you don't know, politically by Israel and by America. America at the UN constantly vetoes any movement that might help these people and penalize Israel. So apparently that's what we've got to look forward to, and it's absolutely insane because he's advocating that we build another EU-like organization and that we need allies, both politically, economically, influence-wise, and yet we've just left one, a very, very good one of the oldest in the world. And yet he's advocating that we just make a new one. Yeah, it's unbelievable. But there you go.
But at the same time, let's recognize that for all their faults in the United States of America, they're not genociding Muslims.
And
you switch.
Oh, advert. And there you go. That's Magic Nawaz. What a frustrating man he is. Honestly, frustrating. Oh yeah, let's go over that Brexit paper. Let me see if I can find it. Go away. There we are. We are right. Let's get to the summary. So, in 2015, there was a information pamphlet published by Brexiteers to try and convince people to leave the EU. It was very anti-EU, even though it set out, it called itself Business for Britain. That's, I believe, it was the people who wrote it. It was called Change or Go. And it was called How Britain Would Gain Influence and Prosper Outside an Unreformed EU. Oh, thank you for that. UK coronavirus cases have risen by over 800 today. Unbelievable. But that's not a topic for another conversation. We're going to talk about this. Where's the summary? Because it's quite a long one. Here we are. So, one of, I suppose you'd call it the Brexit Bible. That Brexit Bible is, as I've just said, it's change or go. And it's how Britain gains influence and prospers in an unreformed EU. And it's about 1,000+ pages. It's absolutely unbelievable. But we're not going to go over 1,000 pages. There's just some information here that, shall we say, the highlights of that paper. And some of them are very interesting. Some of them you may have heard before and expected, but you may notice regard these because a lot of these were the key points that the Leave campaign was championing. A lot of them were the ones that Brexiteers themselves were championing, and even now still continue to champion. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that change or go is the Bible for the Brexiteers. I don't think it's going to change either way. So this is going to be so good. Right. So, highlights from this. The first one. This paper mentions nothing about UK-Irish relations. 1,000+ papers about Brexit and how the UK is going to prosper, and at no point does it mention Ireland. You know, the only country we currently share a land border with. One that is potentially a flashpoint that has the potential to reopen up terrorist activity. You might think that in a paper that was talking about how Britain could share its influence and increase its influence and its wealth and prosperity, you might think that Ireland might be pretty high up on that list. Doesn't even mention it. Doesn't even get a look in. Not even mentioned, which is, again, typical Brexiteer language. Can you even think or go back and think of a single time that Northern Ireland and the Irish border got mentioned in those talks? Because I certainly can't think of one. I know it was warned about by Remainers, but it was not taken seriously and was just another Project Fear. So this is the next one. These are the good ones that we start getting into. So the EU would agree to negotiate a new trading relationship before the triggering of Article 50. The UK would have a new deal in its back pocket before the formal process of leaving the EU had even begun. Remind you of anything? About how all the Brexiteers continuously preach that the EU deal would be so easy and be done instantly. Because they were thinking that if we leave, the EU is going to just bend over for us and just provide us with all this wonderful stuff. And you just go look at it and just like, hasn't really done that. Hasn't really done that at all. Next one. The UK could enjoy, you're going to like this one, the UK could enjoy a common market relationship with the EU, even if it did not sign a special deal after exit. Remember, this was written in 2015. So already, the Brexiteers were advocating that we could have our cake and eat it. But it gets even better. The authors of this treatise, shall we say, the Bible of Brexit, were relaxed about the UK losing the benefits of EU trade deals because the EU underperforms at managing trade policy. It doesn't have a trade deal with the US and China anyway, so it's highly likely that the EU's free trade agreements could be photocopied, and that the UK could quickly do its own deals. Both Australia and New Zealand and Japan, I'm not sure about any other countries yet, those are the ones I can think of, because I know we've covered them, have all said, we will not accept the same deal you currently have, currently being in the EU. You will have to negotiate a new one, because you are not in the EU. Things have changed. Remember, this was written back in 2015. And all of these points are valid today. But it's unbelievable. The whole thing about, not ignoring its trade policy doesn't look like it, considering how much effort they're doing into doing the negotiations with us, the EU. There you go. Next point. It obsesses on tariffs, but pays scant attention to non-tariff barriers. In revealing language, it saw the limits to the EU's ability to penalise Britain and inflict malicious harm. So again, essentially, what the Bible is saying, don't worry, we can sort out our tariffs, but don't worry, the EU can't penalise us for anything. We'll be fine. The EU has been very clear that it will penalise us if we don't play ball. And then the final point of this is, again, I just want to remind people, this was written back in 2015, and yet all these points are still repeated in some way, shape, or form by Brexiteers. So the final one is easy transport links for firms and citizens. There would be no significant disruptions or inconvenience for UK firms or passengers. UK travellers can even keep their European health cards and insurance cards when visiting the EU. The irony of that is that just this week, we've learned that the European health cards end in 1st January 2021. But apparently, according to the think tank, the brains behind Brexit, in this Brexit Bible, you can keep them. There's going to be no transport disruption or inconvenience. But anyway, there you go. Yeah, how long have we been going for now? Over 2 hours, and I'm getting really hungry at the moment. So, thank you for joining us on this paint stream, well, paint and politics stream. We did sort of achieve our goal. We've base painted the Thunderers. They come out very, very, very dark purple. That's very, very dark. I don't know if that will cause me problems when I'm trying to do other things, but that has actually come out quite nice. So maybe in the future, I might base paint them a lighter colour. So I might get the white colour and then go over it with this. I think that might be better, but as usual, sometimes you have to wait for the dry to really see the true effect. So yeah, so other than that, we'll see. So thank you very much for joining me today. If you are new, again, please do like the video and share it around, even though I'm about to end the stream. Subscribe for more stuff. I don't think I'll do another live stream this week, but you never know. I do like to surprise people when I'm doing my live streams. But anyway, yeah, thanks for joining us. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you to the 2 people who donated. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. And yeah, so thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you all soon around the channels.